One of our several scheduled budget meetings we're going to have today. We're going to go over some preliminary budget proposals. This is something that the board has together decided several meetings going forward. So if you have some questions, concerns, presentations are going to be made, initial presentations. This is still a work in progress, but nonetheless, we felt that it was important that we start off as early as we can. So having said that, I'm going to turn to our township manager.
Sure. Good deal. Good evening, everybody. Okay, looks like we have three members of the audience. Derek, if you want to hand out the, I was going to project it, but this meeting is primarily to discuss capital expenses for 2019. These are the raw requests from each of our departments, and forgive me, I got a little scratch in my throat. So, we're going to go department by department and discuss it with the board. If the board has any questions, if the audience has any questions. Again, these are the raw 2019 capital expenses per department. So let's do admin first. And obviously, Dave, everybody jump in if they have any observations or anything to make. For the administration department, we have 3 pool cars that are up for, 2 are up for replacement. 1 is new. We'll go into some detail. We have a 2009 hybrid Escape and a 2010 hybrid Escape that have seen some better days. Dave, I will say, much better days. And we're looking to replace those vehicles. We find the Escapes are a little small, so we're recommending going to the Explorer as the next higher level car. Just gives us more room to ferry equipment and people around. And the last is an inspector's vehicle, most primarily for Rick Craig, our township engineer. In regards to the Woodlands project, Rick's going to have to be out there 3 or 4 times a week doing surveys, doing drone aerial views of the various improvements, inspecting the culverts, the bridges, just for a second set of eyes for us out there. Now, this inspector's vehicle, although it's in the township budget, as part of the approval for the Woodlands, the developer is donating to the township about $1 million to be used at your discretion for anything to do with the park or the project, for capital expenses. So we're suggesting, it's the board's decision of course, that this inspector's vehicle be paid for out of those proceeds. However, per the agreement, those proceeds are not to be given to the township until substantial completion of the public improvements. So we could be looking 12 months, 18 months out till we get that $1 million. Obviously, Rick's going to have to be out there. Well, he has been out there. I mean, taking whatever vehicle's available, and he comes back money every time. We're still suggesting to purchase this vehicle, and we can reimburse the general fund or the capital reserve fund, wherever the board deems to take the money from to pay for the vehicle. We can reimburse that fund for that expense, for that inspector's vehicle. So that pretty much does it for admin. Again, it's 2 replacement vehicles for our 09 and 10 hybrid Escapes, and then a new inspector's vehicle for the Woodlands project. Are there any questions? Or jump in any time.
So for the audience's edification, we choose 4 vehicles, or we have our own mechanics.
We do.
Really helps the cost.
Yes, and Dave can speak to this as well. We have primarily, what, 98% Ford fleet?
Yeah,
if not more.
We have Ford software to actually work on vehicles.
And instead of taking it to the dealer, we've been, I mean, there's a familiarity with these vehicles.
Yeah, the vehicles go back for wiring work, that's about it.
Yeah.
Casey.
Sure.
So Rick's car for jockey would be, we could buy that with the budget, but then it could be reimbursed later on with that, those funds from the developer.
Yes, that $1 million or thereabouts is at the board's discretion to spend, so I would suggest that that happen.
So we could purchase it now, so Rick could have it.
Correct.
And then it would be reimbursed back.
Correct. in 12 to 18 months. And I would say Alan Myers is doing you guys are out there, they're doing a crazy job out there. They're really, and if we have a relatively mild winter, they'll be closer to 14 months probably, or 12 months to get done, so we'll see. Yes, ma'am?
Who drives the two pool cars currently?
They're pool cars, so they're available, mostly parks. I'll grab one, Bill will grab one, anybody who needs a car. We'll take mail to the post office with them.
All right. Do you have your own personal car though?
I do,
Provided
yes.
by-
Sure.
Okay, so you shouldn't need to use the pool car.
Unless my car's in the shop getting fixed.
And sewer manager has a car.
Correct.
Director of Public Works has a car.
Mhm.
It seems to me 2 pool cars should be sufficient. And I would also like to comment that there is an edge, a Ford Edge, which is in size between the Escape and the Explorer, which I personally drive as a
Mhm.
Ford Edge. And I'm wondering if the board does decide to upgrade to a larger car, to consider the Edge because it is larger than the Escape, but it would be less costly to the taxpayers instead of
Sure.
an Explorer.
Okay, we get them on the state contract, so we got the Explorers for about $26,000. So they're pretty inexpensive on it.
But the Edge would be even less expensive.
Okay,
Just an
we'll take a look.
How many people, since you own one, Marcy, how many people can you fit in an Edge?
5. I drove an Escape for many years. My kids drive it now. And then when I did find it small, so when I went to buy a new car, I test drove the Explorer, and I found it quite too big for what I wanted. And the salesman said, well, are you aware of the Edge? It's bigger than the Escape, smaller than the Explorer. And I have it 5 years now and I love it. It's plenty of room. I'd be worried that the Explorer would probably be an XLT 4-wheel drive, and I don't know that as pool cars that the taxpayers should.
We only buy base models of vehicles, we don't buy anything higher, so. And we need 4-wheel drive, so. Okay. Rick Craig's engineering, I'll need some help with this. I know what the piece of equipment is, but I'll need him. There's one request in for a total station. It's our survey equipment. So Rick, if you could just describe what a total station is and what its usefulness is.
Actually, presently we have a robotic total station, which is an electronic surveying instrument that's used for roadway surveys, basin surveys, any type of survey data that we need for the township. There has been significant advancement in surveying equipment over the past 10 or 12 years, and there is now equipment available. It's a 3-dimensional laser scanner, which looks similar to a robotic total station, sits on a tripod and rotates, but this instrument automatically records approximately 1 million points per second and creates a 3-dimensional mesh, which is accurate to survey grade accuracy over a distance of 150 meters in 360-degree circle. So that's there's significantly more data than we can achieve with a robotic total station, and the costs are pretty similar from what we paid for the robotic total station 7 years ago to the cost of the laser scanner now. So we're suggesting that in order to, rather than replace the robotic total station with another similar instrument, to upgrade to a 3-dimensional laser scanner instead.
How much do you use it, Rick?
A couple times a week.
And in what context do you use it?
A lot of it's stormwater basin surveys. It's also, available for use for roadway surveys or, anything that we need to achieve survey grade data for.
So could you describe for me how you would use it in a traffic situation?
What kind of traffic situation?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, are you talking about a roadway survey for design or rehabilitation purposes, or are you talking about accident reconstruction?
Both.
Okay. A roadway survey for design design or rehabilitation purposes would be a linear survey, where you set up at the start of where you want to survey, and you move down through that survey using multiple setups to record the roadway width and any striping or any other incidental items, structures alongside the road.
So that could be also for expansion of the lanes,
Yeah, definitely.
to go from 2 to 3 lanes or
Sure.
4 lanes,
It
whatever.
could be for replacement of existing road or expansion or improvements. Yes.
Okay.
Accident reconstruction is different. That's an accident scene. You generally set the instrument up at 1 or 2 locations and record the roadway surfaces, any evidence on the roadway, and any vehicular evidence or any other evidence that would be at the scene.
In that context, would you do it, or would the traffic safety group do it?
Both.
In the department? Both. Okay, thank you.
So Rick, is the compost system working now?
System does work presently. That equipment has a useful life of between 5 and 10 years. We're at 7 years now. The advantage to the three-dimensional scanner is it acquires a lot more data in a much shorter period of time. Is that absolutely critical in roadway surveys? Maybe not, although the more data you have, the more accurate you can make your design. It's certainly beneficial for accident reconstruction because you can clear the scene a lot faster.
And what's the life of this new system?
Between 5 and 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
So I have a question. I see in your 5-year projection that you would be spending $8,000 on robotic. Is that to extend its useful life, or I'm curious as to why you would be spending on that, or not
You mean
changeable?
in future years?
Yeah.
That will most likely not need to be spent. When we purchased the robotic total station, we purchased it in stages. We brought the instrument first, and then a year later, we bought the robotic equipment to go with the instrument. So it's kind of bought in 2 different stages. The laser scanner doesn't require that. It's a self-contained instrument. So most likely that expenditure will not be required next year.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
So in fact, we would be saving $8,000.
Yes.
Mr. Piana, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is this equipment something that our consulting engineering firm, Carroll Engineering, would have, and is it something that we could share, or just use their firm to do that work when something like that is required?
Off the bat, I would say with accident reconstruction, they're not going to lend us to that equipment for that. They don't have any obligation to. But I'll let Rick answer the rest of the question.
Yeah, as far as standard surveys, they certainly have the equipment. Their survey crews do. They're not going to lend it to us. We could pay them to do it, but if you compare my hourly rate with theirs, it's a whole lot less expensive to have me do it. The other advantage to the laser scanner, too, is it's a one-man instrument, so I don't need anyone else to assist me with that instrument. So it's more cost-effective as well.
Okay. All right, very good. Next department is Parks. Doreen is here. I'll go through the items individually. We have a static non-digital sign at the community park. It's been there since what?
96 Park.
Yeah, when the park was built in 1996. It's in poor repair, just like our one out here. This is one of the items in discussions that's up for discussion, obviously, because it's 70 grand, you know. We have security upgrades that we are proposing for our various parks to put all of our parks under security cameras. In this day and age, obviously, security cameras are helpful for preventative, and also, obviously, you guys can answer this better than I can, for preventative and also, you know, getting some crooks out afterwards.
as far as the electronics on the park and so forth?
No, the cameras, security cameras.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I apologize. Sorry, I was reading my stuff. I apologize. Yeah. Absolutely.
So obviously the biggest park that we have is Community Park. It's the biggest at $91,000 for cameras. Lambert Park at $23,000. Cooper Smith, which is over the years we've installed at least one camera there, but we've they're outdated, and we've had lots of animals in there for sure, since it's so remote. And Barker Park at $22,000. So these are security upgrades, working with our security company to install them. They'll be remotely monitored, I believe, by the police department at all times. They'll be in the dispatch. Plus, they're recorded for 30 days, 30 days, in case we do have an issue. We can go back to the tape and see what we can get. And these are HD cameras, very crystal clear. So it's proposal. Ward off some vandalism.
Is that, are those devices available through the state?
I believe they're all CoStars. Everything we buy is
Are they coastal?
Not sure.
cameras. We can check into that. The remaining equipment is more normal park stuff. We have 4 Hustler Z 72-inch mowers at $12,000 per. Our mowers get used constantly, and they're beaten up pretty much. So we have
Three,
one.
just three.
I'm sorry.
Three.
Oh, there's only 3. No. Sorry. Scratch one. Okay. Then we have a Exmark left behind 48-inch mower at $6,500. And then 2 vehicle replacements, a 1-ton 4-wheel drive pickup replacement for $50,000, and then a dump truck replacement at $90,000. Do we have any comments, Dave? And obviously, the security cameras are the bulk of the expenses in the department, something we've not done before. So.
Excuse me, please.
Sure.
What's the life expectancy of the digital sign?
15, 20 years.
Yeah. Each of the, however big the sign is, it's got replaceable panels. So, I mean, we had our neighbor across the way here took a pellet gun and shot our windows out here, maybe 6, 7 years ago. So, if that were to happen, we could replace each individual panel instead of replacing the entire sign. So, if we have vandalism like that, or a rock gets kicked up at PennDOT or something crazy.
Plus the warranty.
Yeah, and there's a heavy warranty on it a bit initially, so if there's any damage or any malfunction. So, okay. Police department, pretty straightforward. They're looking for 4 police cruiser replacements. One was at $37,000 for some reason, the rest were $36,000.
Correct. The actually, it's 3 replacements and 1 additional.
Okay.
37 would be an F-150 pickup.
Okay,
That
similar
would
to the one
mirror the traffic unit that we
Nice.
currently have.
Gotcha. Do you want to explain that undercover vehicle a little bit?
Sure, but
Well, if you
it's
want
assigned to the traffic safety unit, and it's an unmarked pickup truck, and it's also equipped with the LPR, the license plate readers. So, and it's been very useful in the residential areas and so forth. And I defy you to even know it's a must. It's been very useful, obviously because it's unmarked and it looks like any other pickup truck down the road. We put a few extra lights on it just so that when we need to get somewhere, it's recognizable. But it's been very useful for the traffic safety unit in addition to carrying all the equipment that they utilize. We have a box in the back for their total stations and their traffic codes and equipment and so forth. So I'd be looking to replace the oldest car in the traffic safety unit, which is 2010, with that. And then the other vehicles would be the 2 juvenile vehicles, which are currently 2012, and they're pushing 90,000 miles a year.
So one of the things I think is important, Chief, maybe for some of the folks in the audience, when, you might have your own vehicles and you might see the year and you might say, oh, wait a minute, my vehicle's older than that, it's running fine, why do we need these new vehicles? And, there's discussion that can be had about how many vehicles necessarily, but in this case, the police vehicles run all the time. Chief, perhaps you could...
Certainly. We, when our guys go to a call, 99% of the time, we don't turn off our cars. we have a system in place that we can lock our cars and keep the cars running so that nobody can take it inadvertently or intentionally, I should say. And the idle hours on that put a burden on the engines themselves. So there's several issues that we take into account when we're looking to replace a car. Obviously the age, the actual mileage of the vehicles. We confer with Mr. Weddy and Eric regarding the maintenance and the upkeep on particular vehicles because they know best which ones are getting worn and torn. And then there's a calculation with regard to the engine idle hours on these vehicles that we became aware of maybe 5 or 6 years ago with regard to that. And I'll give you an example. If our traffic safety gets called for an accident, and I'll give you the example. Last November, we were out on scene in Totem Street for 14 hours.
Yeah.
And we can't shut our vehicles down like that because then our computers shut down and we lose communication. So those idle hours put a wear and tear on the engines themselves. So for every, General Motors has put out a calculation, be it marketing or whatever, but it's a known fact that for every hour of idle time, it puts about 25 miles of travel on the engine wear itself. So we try and calculate and compare, and if we use what General Motors puts out there as aging vehicles, some of our motors are pushing 1 million miles. So there's a lot of factors that go into our vehicles. And then we, in-house, we play the show game. You know, our juvenile officers are assigned to our vehicles because they overlap shifts and they can't share the patrol vehicles and so forth. And they sit at the schools, and when they're down there, they do shut them down. But the fact that they are a one-man vehicle will last twice as long as the vehicles that are assigned to patrol and so forth. So then we'll take a used car, say the sergeant's car that's got 2 years on it, we'll give that to the juvenile guys, and that will in fact last longer. So we try and expand the use of the car, the cars by shuffling them around. But these cars are pushing 1 million miles on the engines themselves.
And just to reiterate, the reason why you keep them on all the time.
Well, we have a lot, everything's electronic now. We have computers in these cars. And we have safeguards on them, so if we do shut down a car and a guy comes in, he's got to handle a report or a complaint on station. If a car shuts down, there's a charge guard on these computers, and it'll get to a minimum power, and it'll automatically shut down. But if my guy then gets a call for an emergency and has to go out, he could be on the scene of the emergency before the computer's fired back up again. So I don't like that. I don't like putting my officers in that position because they're going into a situation blind. So the idle is a cost of doing business, for lack of better words, and that's why there's so much electronics in these cars that we have to keep them flowing.
So a lot of folks don't know that, but next time you walk by a police car and you see it's on, that's why. That's why they're on all the time.
And they're locked 99%.
And we are locked, all right.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Dr.
Also, I've had conversations with Dad about this sort of thing, and he would explain to me, in an emergency, they can't risk not getting the car started. So, yes, sometimes it flies the car running, but it makes better sense to leave the car running. Because if they have to get somewhere fast, they can't risk having an engine problem.
And the drastic temperatures too, because of the electronics in the car. You can't let the cars get to 120 degrees inside. That'll fry things or whatever. Conversely,
That's right. The air conditioning has to stay.
Yeah. So that's the reason. That's the basic reason for it.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to streets. We have a floor scrubber at 13,000, a floor sweeper at 10,000. We have a utility truck replacement at 70,000, and a large, is that a 10-wheeler?
No.
It's 6-wheeler. Jeez, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. 10-wheelers are like 260,000. Okay, and a large dump truck, a 10-wheeler replacement for 170,000, plus a new item. And Dave, if you want to discuss this, a hydraulic iron worker.
It's for the fleet guys for making, fabricating brackets. It would have come in real heavy with the new police truck.
Right.
A lot of our snowplow repairs.
Storm grade.
Storm grades.
Actually, I think Jonathan Barn, he
stations.
Oh, okay, so they've been using one for a while?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So we're able to do that kind of work in-house now, or if we purchase those. Okay, very good. Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. Yes, sir.
The scrubber and the sweeper, are they used for injury?
Injuries, yes. They're for the,
Just for our.
Use them all, get used all over the complex.
Yeah.
We've even learned how to sort of thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
okay, 2 items in the wastewater department. We have a new tank truck. I'm sorry, not new, replacement. How old is that tank truck, Mike?
25 years.
20, oh, I'm sorry, 25 years old? Okay. Okay, so 130, I'm sorry, go ahead. Mr. Burnett, yes, sir.
I was going to ask him, at 25 years, it qualifies as an antique.
Yeah.
You might advertise that in an antique magazine.
It is a nice car show.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a tank truck replacement at 135, and a Ford F-350 pickup truck replacement at 55,000.
Just curious, why does it need to be a F-350? Is it towing a lot?
It tows pumps.
Tows pumps and
hoses,
pushes snow.
Pushes snow.
It's got-
Great.
Mhm. Okay, and the last department is facilities. Mr. Kakabo is here. The big item on the agenda is the emergency generator replacement. We budgeted $450,000. When this building was built 20 years ago, it was undersized. It does not run our HVAC. So in the winter and summer, I have to dismiss the staff here because it gets too hot or too cold to work in this building. And also about half of the outlets do not work. And all of our copiers do not work, all our big office copiers. And it was a short sight from,
Well, plus we lose the HVAC for the police department.
yes, yeah, this, yeah, that, you forgot that. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
lose
last
the
year,
the HVAC for the police department.
So under, so let's see, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we had a 3 or 4 day outage here at least. That was bad. We had to, our ex-facilities guy went down to Delaware to find space heaters because it was late in the year, it was like February.
Yeah, you're right.
And we had to put space heaters around just to maintain the plumbing in this building.
We lost the fire sprinkler.
And we lost the fire sprinkler. That's right, fire sprinkler burst because it froze. And we lose the elevator. Elevators in both buildings do not work with the undersized generator. So on one occasion, we had to cancel a meeting. We had a power outage for at least a day, maybe a day and a half. It was, wasn't fun. So we canceled the board meeting because we couldn't have a lot of people poster.
Is there grant money possibly available for that? Have we explored that?
I've never seen any grant funding for.
I'm thinking of what's going on now with FEMA.
I would suggest there would.
Florida's offering some
Yeah.
for nursing homes only,
Yeah.
but that's actually caused the backlog in generator. You're talking 24 weeks to get, which is almost twice what we initially had.
And given we just had Florence and now Michael, we wouldn't even qualify. There's no way.
Okay.
Always goes first, right?
It's all Coast, absolutely. Yeah, the purchase of the equipment is CoStar's. The only thing we have to actually bid is the installation, which is going to be complex, to say the least, because of all the rewiring that has to occur, because most of the circuits are not.
Well, and to keep, they can do the electric work on a weekend,
Mhm.
but that's all weekend and night work to keep this building up and running.
Yeah.
They have to bring in a portable generator to plug in, to make temporary connection to the police station, because they can't be without power. So we're going to be paying for a portable generator to be here probably at least 2 or 3 weeks while we're doing that.
Right. Yeah, and we put this off, I think, in 3 budgets
Yeah.
so far, we just make do, but it's beyond its usefulness. Yeah. And thankfully, our emergency operations center is in Public Works building on a separate generator, so worst case scenario, everybody heads over there and works out at EOC, but it's It's not a good situation.
Dr. White?
Yes, sir.
Casey, I think he answered the question. We were supposed to get this year, but we just didn't.
It's been the last 3 whole budgets. We put the first in 16, 17, 15, 16, 17. We're going to do it in 18. We pushed it off again, so I guess it's been 4 years
Okay.
that we pushed it out.
Okay, so is there, will there be discussion as far as whether we get diesel or natural gas?
We're staying with,
It's diesel. We're actually going to go from natural gas to diesel. Once you get to a certain size,
yeah.
it makes more sense then.
Okay.
Curiosity, do we have any backup system? In case things go bad, like what happens when there's no backup generator?
Well, I mean, all of our, what do you mean, for like data, or what do you mean?
But everything, really.
Well, I mean, all of our data is backed up in 4 locations. 1 out of state and 3 in the greater Delaware Valley region. So we're the most backed up data municipality in Southeast PA apparently. But no, if this generator were, go ahead.
Part of the new project is documented.
Yes, yes.
So if something were to happen to that generator, we have to take that generator offline for X amount of weeks for service.
Mhm.
You can actually bring a rental and plug right in,
Mhm.
giant plug right on the outside of the building.
But right now, if this generator were to
We
have,
haven't done it.
yeah, there's no redundancy except I'll again, I'll list to move over to work out that, which we can do. I mean, all of our systems are remote, we can work remotely, but we'd have to lock this building. We have security upgrades, I believe we're 4. We need upgrades to our existing key fob system. Again, the building's going on 20 years. So the actual the strike pads where you hit your fob, they're all getting older and they're not just, yeah, they're getting a little cantankerous. And again, the last item is the sign out front. 20 years old, it's falling apart. You have to make
No,
that.
that sign,
Yeah, it's falling apart.
that sign's well over access point.
That's true. Oh God, that's when
That's the original.
that's when we had the original building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that going to be digital as well?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we can change that sign with our cell phone from any location. If we have a Amber Alert or a whatever, we can just do it from our phone. Send them.
Silver alert. I'm not saying anything.
Oh, geez. There you go.
Quite the looking right out.
Water's off.
I'm actually silver already too, just so I know.
I'm water off, it's intentional.
Don't look for you.
So those are the raw capital requests from our department heads. And we'll continue to discuss them with the board for the next few weeks of the budget cycle. So that's it for me.
Thank you.
Questions?
Good, thank you.
Excuse me, Kate.
Yes, sir.
Good question. For the generator, could we achieve some savings if we use the same vendor that the sewer plant used?
No, it's actually more expensive. We looked at that. The unit that sewer uses has some special items.
Mhm.
This unit will actually be the same unit as what's on the building.
Yes,
Can I backtrack a little bit? Would you just confirm that the pool cars stay on site? They are not driven home? They're garaged here 7 days a week?
talking about the pool
The
vehicle.
pool vehicles?
Yeah, except for,
Administrative ones or?
Yes.
yeah, they're not assigned to anyone unless we have an employee going to a conference, they'll take a pool car. and
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's special situations like Casey just described, but
Mhm.
usually it's 7 days a week parked
Yeah,
there.
always got you.
And then also, do we have a history or is there a history of crime or vandalism at the parks? And what was the basis of requesting?
There's been a lot of vandalism.
Tons of vandalism.
There's been some.
We've had a sexual assault.
Yeah, we actually had it, yeah, exactly, in the community park.
Great. Thank you. And then also just, I'm just curious if there were liberties taken with some of the expenses, because obviously, I think we should narrow it down to the dollar. So if you're requesting upgrades to Ford Explorers and saying they're $26,000
On CoStarz.
on CoStarz, why just are you requesting writing in 30,000? Just take 3 cars, if you put in 26,000, we're talking 12. So there just seems to be a lot of cushion. And
I wouldn't call it a cushion. Those CoStar's contracts change all the time, so we budget 30,000 just to be safe.
Plus, you have to transfer the equipment too.
Yeah, I mean, there's other costs included. We buy decals, radios to fit out the car, so.
Warning lights.
Warning lights, yes.
And then also, is the board provided with the current list of inventory? So they're able to see the current inventory of all the pool vehicles and all the employee vehicles and all the, great, thank you. Can I have a copy of that?
Working papers, it's not a public record, so, no.
It's public records.
No, it's not.
Casey,
Yes, sir.
the overall total capital request,
Yes.
how does that compare to the last couple of years and the next couple of years projected?
I did not bring that. Can I get back to you?
Sure.
This is just 19 forward, I don't have looking back.
Can I just say, in
Yeah.
general terms, Sean, it is more particularly because I think the main thing is that generator,
Oh, yeah.
which has gotten a little bit out of whack.
Mhm.
So if you take that away, I think it's comparable. As Casey said, we don't know the exact numbers, but with the generator, it is a little bit more than the past, I would say, 2 or 3 years,
Yeah,
from my knowledge.
The generator is about 25% of the overall
So
request.
because the generator, this would be 1.3.
Mhm.
The last couple of years, it's been around 1.2, 1.3.
That seems, I think last year was a little lower, but going back a couple of years, that seems accurate.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask our solicitor if the inventory of the government-owned vehicles is public record or not?
So,
I don't have enough information to give an answer on that.
Mr. Bailey, would you kindly send me a copy of whatever you all are looking at via email?
What do you have, Margie?
I have the request.
That's what I just put that together tonight.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do.
It's
I will.
public record. I don't know why
Let me talk to
you're so
council.
difficult with me.
Let me talk to council.
There's 3 of us that are here every month that really care.
Let me talk to council, let me see what I can do about that, I'll get back to you on that, okay?
Jeez.
There seems to be a question.
And I get criticized for filing open records requests. You guys don't
I'm gonna
make
ask
it
what
easy.
you file.
If this is a note or a report that is prepared by the manager for the board's reference, it may not be a public document.
Those are
Don't argue with me, Margie. I promise you, I will look at it. When I get more information, and I said, I didn't say no, I said, it may not be, and there you go, I'm sorry. We may need more information to determine whether it is. So when Casey and Chris show me the document and tell me what it is and when it was prepared and who it was prepared for, then I'll be able to make a determination based on the right to know law.
a list of taxpayer-funded vehicles. That's all I'm asking for.
And you may be entitled to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lalonde. Any
That's it.
other
Thank
questions?
you.
Looks like there's no other questions. We got a little bit of a break, folks, before we start our regular meeting. I want to thank all the departments for coming out here and making your presentations. Good to see you all. It's great to see our police and people. I think it's a new trend.
I'd also like to thank the department heads who had a chance to educate Mary and I in particular for our first big budget discussion. And we found it very informative and very helpful to understand the basis for the request. So thank you.
Thank you.
And my question is, should we invest in a razor factory?
I don't know.
December 1st.
Trust me, they're doing that.
This won't be there December 1st.
November, it's, they got.
Folks, we're going to take a